Ray, tell us a little bit about what you are doing, and then we'll move over to Krista, and I'll get set up.
All right. So you guys, I have got her bottom placement already done. We did a sectioning through the sides. Basically, I'm placing one on almost vertical. It's still slightly diagonal back. And then the next one goes even more slanted. And then I've got one here. I jumped about an inch. Goes right there. And the next one goes right there. And the points kind of meet up and overlap each other a little bit. So you get a little bit of boldness, but then also the spread. So it covers a lot of area very quickly. So I've only got 2, 4, 6 foils through the sides. And then the back, I have 2 horizontals that are just kind of like tipped out through these 2 foils here. So I got through the bottom very quickly. We're going to do a little fringe section, and then I'll explain the top as I go. Krista, what do you got going on your side?
All right, so today I'm going to be showing you my gradient hairline technique. This is great for your clients that go 3+ months in between their appointments. The best part about this technique is it doesn't require a root shadow or a toner, especially when you're using Luna Violet Bonding Powder. So my first foil, I'm going diagonal on the hairline. This is going to give her full coverage, so when she tosses her hair up, everything is nice and bright. My first foil here, I feathered my lightener all the way to the root, and then my second foil, I'm going to lower my placement by 1/2 inch. As I work my way back on the hairline, I'm going to lower it by 1/2 inch in each foil, so when everything is rinsed, it's going to be nice and smooth.
That is going to be awesome. I love that idea, Krista.
Now, in the front here, I'm going to show you how to brighten up this top face frame piece here. I call it the masterpiece because it's pretty much one of the most important parts of what we do with our guests in the chair. It's the first thing to look at, and as balayage artists, I feel like we spend way too much time on the areas that they don't really see all that much, but we're staring at like the back of the head, and we'll spend hours painting the back. And then we get to the front, and we're tired, and we're like, okay, let's just get it done, and it doesn't process enough. So instead, start to think about it in a different way, and really even sometimes focus on the most important parts first, because that way if you're running behind, running late, then all the back can be like a bonus section, if that makes any sense. So what I'm going to do here is I'm taking a triangle section here at the top from the center part here. If she had a part off to the side, then I would base it off of that a little bit more. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take some hairline pieces here, and I'm going to start with some simple foiling. But I'm going to be doing this entire section here with back-to-back foils. And it's not going to be like, oh my gosh, she's so blonde, it's so contrasting. It's going to be seamless and have that nice balayage blend. So what I'm going to do now is, as you can see here, I took this first row, and because she has a little bit of a widow's peak, it's not too dramatic, but most of our clients don't have a straight across hairline. So instead what I'm doing is I'm just going to take this first row in 2 sections so I can have control. One foil here, and they're both going to be weaved. So I'm going to start with that, and then we'll go back and see what Ray's doing.
All right, I am just about done with my fringe section here. We're just creating a little bit of blonde around there. I'm not going super, super close to the root on her. Just keeping it off the root. It's a little bit of a relaxed look. We're just wanting to create some dimension in. And I am just letting my tease create that kind of shadowed root look or melted look. You can see I'm not painting up super high and close. I painted a little closer on these 2 underneath, and then I'm painting a little farther off on this. Weave and tease, and then I'm going to do one last, this will be my last section on here, and then we'll jump into the fun placement. I kind of call it a seagull flying over the horizon placement because we got two V, like kind of a V shape, and then a horizontal. And we go a little bit closer up on the V's, and then the horizontal is kind of like a tip out. Krista, what's going on over there?
All right, so I finished my foils on the side, and now I'm jumping to the top of her head. My foils are going to meet at a diagonal and kind of come to a point, and I'm doing the same thing with my placement inside my foil. My first one is going to be feathered up to the root, and as I work my way back, I'm going to lower my placement. My favorite part about this is the time I'm going to save behind the chair, since I don't have to tone or root shadow afterwards. Not only are you going to save time, but you're also going to save product, and your clients will love it. Doing this diagonal right here is going to make sure I reach that high recession area. That way when she tosses her hair back, she doesn't have any dark holes in her hairline.
All right, so I'm just jumping into my placement here, guys. So we're kind of doing sort of, it's going to be sort of a V shape or a seagull shape, since we're kind of got the beach theme happening. And then that's kind of going over these horizontal placements here. So these are going to swing away from the sides, but it's going to add some pop here to connect to that fringe section. And then my next section is again going to be a horizontal. So, and then I'll have the seagull flying over again. Don't you love like metaphors?
Did you say seagull?
Yeah, but the seagull flying over the horizon. That's what I'm doing.
I'm sitting here focusing on the front here, and I'm like, I hear seagull. I love it.
Great.
What I'm doing here is I'm really focusing on this front part. I would almost always start at the hairline with some baby light weaves. And what that's going to do, it's going to have a gentle transition to whatever happens after that. So if I want to move into even a bolder face frame, having this gentle blend to start will a lot of times help me avoid having to do a root shadow, because it's already going to be slightly shadowed as I blend it in with the natural hairline. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to do this first row here. I'm finishing up this. This was a baby light weave. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the next row, cutting it once over here, taking a very fine section because we want that gentle transition before I move into thicker sections, which I will here in a second. And then I'm going to do an entire slice for these next two foils.
Are you guys out there? Are you guys finding it that you're having clients coming in asking for more bold placements? No? All right.
No. No.
Yeah, I figured that. We got people coming in asking for bold placement these days, but they still really want that grow out. They want it friendly for the grow out. So that's what we're doing. That's what our collection, the American Balayage collection this year is all about. It's about bold and blended. And we are just having so much fun with our placements this year. I don't know if you guys have heard about the 14 foil transformation class that Ryan and I are doing later on today, but that one's going to be awesome, utilizing a lot of fun techniques and placements.
Yeah, that's going to be a fun class. That's going to be one of those classes.
Yeah, that one's going to be packed.
Teach you how to do a very full look in a very short amount of time. Because our clients love us, but they also love leaving the salon with beautiful hair. They don't want to stay at the salon all day. So the faster we can get them out with the results that they want, the more they're going to pay, and two, the happier they're going to be. Yep.
All right, so I'm jumping to the other side of her hairline. I'm going to repeat the exact same thing that I did over here, just on the other side. So I did 3 baby lights back to back. Inside my placement, inside my foil, I lowered my placement by 1/2 inch on each one. I'm using Luna Violet Bonding Powder and 10 volume. Also, today we're having a special. If you guys come by the Mob booth, it's buy one, get one free. So take advantage of it while you can.
Yeah, you got to try this
Good
stuff out.
call. Yeah, if you haven't tried Luna yet, we have a very special day 2 special. Very special day 2 special. BOGO. BOGO Luna, BOGO Elixir, everything. Buy one, get one. Everything must go. So now I've done the first 2 rows here. The first one was a baby light weave. The second one was a baby slice. And now I'm going to do one more slice just behind it on each side. Again, I haven't skipped any sections here. And this right now is creating that real boldness. Right now, these 2 back-to-back slices are going to add that boldness. And then right behind this, I'm going to start to add in some foliage, some teasing. That's going to start to blend. And I'm going to show you, as I get there, a very cool technique on how to build a natural root and teardrop effect into it so you don't see any stripes at all.
Now, do you guys dig this idea, this V with this horizontal? Like, it's just giving me so much fun, like just kind of cool coverage, bold placement. It's letting her natural hair too be the low light and create lots of dimension. But it's not so much coverage that it's like too blended. This is going to give you really bold pops of the color and in a quick amount of time. when I was backstage. I literally did all this underneath section backstage in less than half an hour. And then we're just banging out the top here in about, 15 minutes you're on stage. So you can tell that this technique goes quickly. Krista, what's happening?
So I'm still working my way on the hairline, but I want to talk about what I'm going to do afterwards. So all I'm going to do in a foil is going to be the gradient hairline, and then once I finish her up backstage, we're actually going to do a wet balayage on her with Luna. Luna is one of my favorite things to wet balayage with because it has that lift and tone at the same time, so I don't have to follow it up with a toner afterwards. That's going to give her ends a lot of brightness without over-compromising them. They're a little dry already, so I don't want to toss these in a foil. I want to bump them up safely, so I'll do that with a wet balayage. Do you guys wet balayage behind the chair? Yeah? You what? Love it.
Okay, now as I move back, I've done the first 3 rows here. The first one was a what? Anybody shout it out? Baby light weave, absolutely. And then the next 2 behind that were what? Slice, baby light slice. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to really start to bring this together. I still have quite a large section to go here, as you can see, but I really want it to be bold and impactful. If I do any more slices behind this, it's going to start to look really chunky. And I'm trying to stay away from Kelly Clarkson at this moment. So what I'm doing is instead, I'm going to cut it from mid-foil to mid-foil, this little triangle section here, and this is going to start my foliage. What I'm going to do with that, I'm going to pull this little section up here, and I'm going to tease it down. I'm just pushing those shorter hairs out of the way. I'm not trying to create a teased mess. I'm just really pushing those shorter hairs out of the way. That's also going to create a little bit of blend insurance. It's going to give us that faux root that's just built into it. I call it a built-in root. And now what I'll do is I'm going to take a little bit of Luna here, paint it on the foil to prep the foil. It's going to act like a glue. Pop it underneath, hold it down there just like that, and then start to paint it. You can see how easily the Luna applies. It's typically with foliage about a 1-to-2 ratio. It goes on thick, but it saturates fully. And you can see how it maintains that toned look, where a lot of other lighteners on the market, they might start out with a little bit of a hint of a violet or a blue or something, but then as the time goes on, it starts to cancel each other out and kill the toning aspect, but not with Luna. Luna stays with that perfect toning feature the entire way through. So now I'm just going to brush it up here, that last little bit, feather it up, create more of a little bit of a blocked effect, and then I'm going to drop the foil down here. I stole this trick from Krista. Take your board, if you like to use boards, put a bunch of foils behind it. You can put about, 15, 20 foils behind it, fold it over like that, and you never have to worry about that extra time it takes to put a foil on the board. It's already ready to go for you. I'm going to take the lighter ends, push those out of the way, and fold it up. And I'm going to do the same thing right behind it with a slightly larger section.
Yeah, that board trick is a total game changer, especially if you're working with long hair. You can use the foils that are already preloaded on there to work down the hair shaft. You know those clients that come in and their hair is to their waist and you're like, oh my gosh. Great trick to help save some time behind the chair. So I'm finishing up my 3rd foil on her hairline. When you look down, you can see her foils actually come to a point. This is going to make sure that it covers any widow's peak if your client has one. And then when she tosses her hair up, it also covers that high recession area. I will connect it with a foil in the center just to make sure when she wears it down, everything flows nicely. Since I'm only focusing my placement around the face, I want to make sure it has a high impact result.
Let me show you something really quick here before we go to Ray. If that's okay, Ray?
Yeah, go for it.
I'm on the back-to-back foil, and I talked about how to do we're doing the built-in root shadow, which is the teasing. But how am I going to create that teardrop effect so it's not just like an ombre kind of a line? So the way I do that is I tease it just like I did before. It's a slightly larger section, not considerably longer. It's a little bit wider, but about the same depth, about a 1/4 inch. Now what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to take some product, again, prep the foil, and instead of putting it all the way under, I'm going to match it up with the foil underneath it and pull it down like so. That's going to give us some natural depth right there. I'm not going all the way to the teased area, and that will start to increase the amount of root as it cascades back. And then I have, I think, one more section directly behind that, and I'm gonna do the same exact thing. Match it up to the same guide foil, not go past the foil, and that will give me that perfect blend that tapers back.
All right, so I'm connecting my foils with a horizontal section. I took this whole section and I gave it a tease, pushing up 3 times. What I'm gonna do with this section is just paint the ends. These foils up here are gonna give me that brightness around the face, and then this tip out right here is gonna give me that bold pop towards the ends. I feel like we're seeing that a lot nowadays with our face frame, and this is going to give us our result. Ray, what are you up to over there?
I'm just in love with dimensional balayage right now. I love creating these looks utilizing people's natural hair as their dimension, and I love creating these bolder placements rather than trying to give make people like blonde highlighted and then root shadow. I don't know, I'm just more into this type of balayage look, and I'm just having so much fun with it. So I don't know about you guys, but it's what I'm into.
I like that. I'm into that too, man.
Yeah.
I think it's cool when you don't know if somebody's blonde or the brunette. You know, when it's that perfect blonde.
Perfect in between.
Yeah. Best of both worlds, I think. So I have this last section here. Now this was a little bit of a wonkier section. It's more of a triangle section. We started with a tiny triangle section. Now this back one is a slightly thicker triangle section, but that's fine. I'm gonna push the root down the same way. And the hair that I paint on, I always, when I'm doing foliage, want to make sure I'm not painting on too thick of a section. I want to make sure that I can see through the section here, so that way I can get that full saturation without any internal bleeding. I'm going to push this down here, and because I'm pushing down a little bit more hair, I'm also going to have a little bit more of that automatic depth at the root. But I'm going to do the same thing here, prep the foil, match it up with the foil directly below, so that I have even that more of that teardrop effect without having to overthink it. And do the same method, saturate it nice and gently, work it up, really push through to get that full saturation. That will help us avoid any warmth with the lifting. Feather up just a little bit for that added blend insurance. And then as I pull down here, I'm going to be sure not to overlap that real bright blonde, and I'll kick those ends out at the very end when I'm doing the foil here. But this is also 10 volume, it's ammonia free, it's very gentle, so even if I do overlap a little bit, I'm not worried about what it's gonna do to the hair.